Well, welcome everyone, in the continuation of our, Nash-Rocky Mountain School Board and Nash County Commissioners, Education Joint Committee meeting, our third or fourth one, I'm not sure which, but we'll go ahead and get started so we can finish up and get everybody out of here on a very beautiful day. And if you're like me, you need to get home and get on your lawnmower. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Lamb for opening comment. Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. You probably read in the paper, the commissioners have adopted the budget for next year. It was almost $94 million. We will, it turned out to be a very good budget. Next year will be a challenge, but this year we got through it, and look forward to working with the school board over the next year and the school system over the next year with various projects that we will jointly be involved in, planning for a new elementary school, as well as the work y'all are gonna be doing on the early college. With that, any other comments anyone wants to make?
I think we just followed the agenda. Ms.
Okay.
Hayes, did you wish to say anything in opening notes?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Follow the agenda.
All right. Item 2 is the update on Wilford School. Dr. Jeffers, I simply put that on there. I feel like probably most of us know what has been done, but just in case somebody did not, if you'd give us a brief update. Of course, as you know, I went to your parent meeting over there that night, so I understood exactly what you did, but if you would just briefly update us on that for the benefit of those that may not know.
Certainly. And thank you for the opportunity. As this body may be aware, my board authorized me to set out a series of community engagement sessions related to our transformation efforts at Williford Elementary. We have completed the community and staff transformation meetings. If you'll reference the handout, Monday, May 7th was the Williford meeting where we talked about the impacted staff that will be transitioning to 3 sister schools as a result of our transformation decision. Thursday, May 10th, we had a community focus group, and that's the meeting which you referenced, Commissioner Davis. That was sponsored by Angela Bryant. Thursday, May 17th, Baskerville Elementary, we had a restart parent information meeting where we unpacked the plans for the next 4 years for that school once we receive approval of the restart application. Tuesday, May 29th, we followed up with a similar meeting at Inglewood and completed May 30th, the Williford transformation meeting. And those are the impacted students, the rising 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders that will be transitioning to Baskerville, D.S. Johnson, and Inglewood respectively. Thursday, May 31st, represented the last of our meetings for the restart schools, and that was at D.S. Johnson. Our next steps, student assignment letters will go home today. That will be to those students impacted at Williford, where they'll understand their new assignments. We'll be initiating professional development about the framework that will support the inquiry centers at Baskerville, D.S. Johnson, and Inglewood, and book studies with those principals. The staff transitions, that's assistant principals, teachers in grades 3 through 5, and pre-K teachers have all been notified of their reassignments for the coming year. We have a summer scholars program where it's a K-12 comprehensive district-wide plan where we'll be able to collect data to support the transition for all of our students that are impacted. We are working on finalizing the memorandums of understanding for the school-based health clinic at Williford, and the facilities upgrades specific to that clinic will take place this summer. We are also going to use 2018-19 as a planning year to move forward with rolling out the inquiry centers. I'll take any questions that you have.
questions?
Not Jeffries, all the teachers that are gonna be transferred, they understand their responsibility of what they're gonna be doing at the other school that they're being transferred to.
That hasn't been determined yet, Commissioner. What we're closing out this year. They know their new assignments. Principals have the summer to work on class configurations and assignments, so that's to be determined by the receiving principal.
I ask that because secondhand, I've heard maybe that one or two are not happy. That's why I asked.
That might be
I haven't discussed nothing with any teacher, but this came to me secondhand from someone else.
So just to clarify what you said, Dr. Jeffries, they know what school they've been assigned to, but in terms of grade level, that's something that will be determined by the principals over the summer?
That's typically the process. So they have been given their assignments. Principals have the discretion to reassign staff within their buildings, so they typically do that work over the summer.
Okay. Any other questions? Item 3, Dr. Jeffers, was an update on the early college, how you wish to handle that, and I was interested in permit and construction timing.
Yes, sir. I'll defer to Mr. Miller.
Obviously, Mr. Shannon Davis can speak to that, and I know there's a question in regards to the permit and our next steps in regards to the permit with Mr. Davis.
We have a price in hand. I was kind of waiting to see, writing a contract. We have an amount with a contractor. I have spoken to Mr. Tolson about another possible contractor who may want to give us a number. But we're ready to pull the permit. We were kind of waiting to see if there was another avenue. We were kind of, before we went. Really, July 1st, July 2nd, that first week, we're really not going to start work until August with demolition. And speaking with the college, I'm thinking it's going to be August 1st before they can even be out of the building where we can start. We have started writing contracts, effective July 1, when funding is to be approved. So we are in the process of lining up the pieces of work that will be contracted.
Question? What is your goal right now as far as when you can move students in?
We're looking to have the building completed and ready to move in, the admin and the first classroom wing, not the T section, the existing engineering, but the admin area. And that first set of classroom wing, when they come back second semester, they'll come back in there ready to go to work. And then we'll be finishing up the engineering while they're in the second semester. They'll occupy the fall and summer.
Gotcha.
But we hoping to be ready with the entire campus February, March.
Good.
Second semester is after Christmas, is that when it is?
When they come back after Christmas, they'll operate second semester, yes.
The few ideas we chased as far as being able to get the permit issued, I guess none of those worked out, being one of them possibly redeeding it, and none of that we run up with problems with all of that.
Okay.
That's a question, not a statement.
It triggered quite a few.
With what we're understanding is if it's deeded to us, it becomes a K-12 facility, and it requires sprinkling, which is not an option. That's what we're told.
Not a viable option.
It's not a viable option,
Gotcha.
exactly, from a funding standpoint,
Yeah.
and feasibility as well.
So,
Which brings us back to a general contractor,
Mhm.
pulling a permit, and like I said, we've got numbers, we've run numbers with 3 different contractors. We've gotten a low bid, but again, Mr. Tolson has mentioned someone else who would possibly want to give us a number.
Not to get too much details with you, Shannon, but is that contractor just gonna be in a supervisory role, and you're still
Yes.
doing all the work?
It's a flat fee to pull the permit, and then there's a weekly site visit
Yeah, or that,
with a not to exceed amount in the contract.
okay, okay. All right. Any other questions? Item 4 we put on here, Dr. Jeffers, was just, we know that you all met with the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners a few weeks ago, and we were just, members of our group were just interested in how that meeting went, or anything of substance come out of it. Everybody leave happy, I hope.
I'll defer to Madam Chair on that.
Okay.
As you know, we met with the joint board meeting with the Edgecombe County Commissioners on May 14th. The meeting was very successful, and we shared with them the same PowerPoint that we shared with you. And we left the meeting as it was adjourned, that Dr. Jeffries will meet with Mr. Evans so they can go over any more details, but it was a very successful and happy meeting.
Great. I did see on the agenda last night, just reading the agenda, they had the piece on there about the early college funding. If I'm not mistaken, it appeared to be that in the agenda itself, about that portion of the early college, what funds they would have to put in based on student population.
So it was a successful meeting.
Right. Okay. Questions from anyone on that? We're moving right along. Discussion on 2018-2019 budget and current expense. And I just listed a few things. That certainly, there could be many more here. I was asked to put on the agenda the CITI high school funding. So Dr. Jefferson, if you'll update us on that, I think most of us know what went on, but please update us.
Certainly, and I'll ask our Director of Secondary, Mr. Thompson, to give a background on the process and the initial approval.
So the background of the process is that there is a committee that forms to determine if we are even eligible to open up a city cooperative innovative high school. This committee, once they have determined that we are available to do that, they will recommend to the General Assembly that they recommend that we can open a cooperative and innovative high school. Plus, they also recommend if we can do that with funding, additional funding. And they have made that, they did make that recommendation. But as you see in the recent budget in the General Assembly, they approved for us to open as a cooperative innovative high school, but without additional funding. And what that meant was, if you know much about the cooperative innovative high school funding, last year in 2017, the funding was changed to tier approaches, which means that there was tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 according to the economical status in the area that you serve. And this year we would have been approved for a $200,000 additional resource to open up the cooperative innovative high school. And what those funds do is pretty much help sustain the innovative high school with the different, because of course there are different programs within our innovative high school where you utilize and take in college courses along with high school courses at the same time. With City High School, it's very unique because it is working more towards the trade end, where we will be able to turn out students who have certificates and an associate degree in automotive, logistics, HVAC systems, electrical systems. So it's very important and could be very good for our economy with our students. But at this point, we have been recommended to open without the additional funding of, as I said, tier 2 of $200,000.
As the Executive Director of High Schools, Mr. Thompson has led our efforts in securing this, and we've been very pleased. We remain excited about the opportunity of serving our students in this unique capacity. What it will mean in terms of impact, in good faith, as you all are aware, with creating a dual site campus and all of the approvals through Department of Public Instruction that had to be secured and the subsequent facilities upgrades, we moved forward in good faith that those funds would be afforded to us. We had no inkling that it would present as a challenge. So right now, losing those funds it has a significant impact to Mr. Davis and his group, because they've been able to make those upgrades. We're ready to open this fall. We have a ribbon cutting scheduled shortly, so the rationale for bringing it before this body was for hopes of considerations of some support. Mr. Thompson articulated the potential impact for our students and our local business and industry leaders in terms of increasing the workforce readiness of our citizens.
Just to make sure I understood the process right, Mr. Thompson, you spoke like maybe someone could interpret it that was a decision made on Nash-Rocky Mountain High School. My understanding is that it was a decision made with the whole program in the General Assembly, where they took all of the funds out, not just our school systems. And I had spoken to all of our representatives about that last week, but actually my phone calls were too late because the budget got approved a little bit before actually the last vote by the House, a little bit before I even made the call. But as I understand the way the budget was done, I think we all have read plenty about this in the press. The way they went about it when it came out of committee, there could be no changes whatsoever made to it anyway. So it was nothing that anybody could do at that point in time. I don't think. Now, I did speak again this morning early with one of our people in the General Assembly and asked him to give me a little bit more detail about it. He did send me a very long text about an hour ago, and the short and the long of it, it was their belief, and I'm going to quote, that with all the things they were doing for the schools as a whole, that they really wanted to see a year under the belt before they started the funding these, just to see how the process went, and assured me that funding would be available. I won't say assured, but it was his thought that funding would be available in years after the first year, where they get a little idea of that it was something that was viable, working good. I don't think it's any doubt in any of our mind locally that it's something we definitely need to do. But it was, my main point is to say it wasn't directed towards our school system, but it was just the whole program itself was not funded throughout the state. Now, did anybody pick up anything different from that?
No, I think your assessment is accurate. Of course, the conversations you had, you're the lone witness to those, and we appreciate your advocacy. The challenge for us is there's a natural vetting process that's associated with the application, and not all are guaranteed funding. Once we completed the normal vetting and got that approval, it had historically, that funding that was recommended has been approved. So this came as really an outlier for us. But thank you for your advocacy.
I guess we'll just keep right on talking to our local representatives and hopefully make sure it's funded in years after this year, and of course they can have a meeting and do about what they want to. Maybe we keep trying to get funding for it. Excuse me, Mr. Bellfield, go ahead.
Will this innovative high school be on the campus of Rocky Mountain High School?
Rocky Mountain Middle School.
Rocky Mountain.
And I did say that wrong a while ago. I realized it's still Rocky Mountain High School to me.
The
But
former Rocky Mountain.
Senior
former
high.
That's the
Senior.
word I missed, yes.
So is there any consideration for support with this year? Or I know you all have approved the budget. Is it too late for that to be considered?
It's too late for it to be considered in our budget, but it's not too late to make the request, and we do budget amendments every month. And I say that not to give you any undue hope, but just to say we have approved the budget, but the budget is always amended moving forward. Mr. Lamb, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fred, did you have anything else?
No, I was just.
Okay.
Good. So that means that the students that at other high schools, if they're interested in this, would have to be transferred there for different courses and back to their other school for academics. Are you gonna have academic courses as well as the innovative technology courses?
We have a capacity for 100 in year one. Right now, we have about 80 of those positions filled. They would not be transitioned back and forth. It would be a self-contained site.
Is the emphasis on this program more along the line of vocational and not necessarily to leave with a dual certificate, or is it, can you leave with just a vocational certificate without anything beyond that?
It honestly, it can be both.
It can
And
be
what we're
both.
pushing, it can be a college degree with an associate's degree, but it
Right.
also can be multiple stackable certificates. So when they go out into the workforce, they are very qualified for the positions that they will enter. So it can be both.
So
And
it's-
plus, they can move to a four-year college if they would like to do that as well.
So it shares some commonality with our early college in that respect, it sounds like.
Yeah, with our early college is strictly transferring into a four-year college, most likely. This is, yes, more geared to move out into the workforce if they would like, but they still have the opportunity if they want to go the other direction as well.
And the design was in response to needs articulated from local business and industry. The opportunity, and they really served diverse groups. This was an underserved population of students. If you can go to a high-quality program, earn those certifications, and transition directly into the world of work and earn a very decent wage starting out, we felt that that was a tremendous opportunity for our students.
Well, I agree with you 400%.
I like the fact that they can prepare for that as well as still being qualified to go to the institution of higher learning.
Yes, sir.
I've always advocated that some people say, just teach them some technology, some trade, and let them get on out there and go to work. And sometimes they get out there and go to work, they want to go to four-year institution of higher learning and miss so many courses. And if they go, they're mediated for remedial courses for almost a whole year.
Yes, sir.
And that's a loss of money. It's a lot of money spent on students having to do that, now going to the institution of higher learning.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as the county commissioners consider supporting this at this point, I hope that you will also consider the fact that this was something that we didn't know was going to happen. We thought we were going to get this money, and we haven't budgeted. And under normal circumstances, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, we would probably go into our fund balance, just like you probably would go into your fund balance to try to fund this. And we've already committed to these students and their parents, and we're ready to start up. And to take a $200,000 hit right now is going to be a difficult challenge, because we also have the challenge of balancing their existing budget based on what our requests were. So it's kind of like a double whammy, and I just wanted to point that out, is that we've committed to these parents. If we hadn't, maybe we would just say, hey, we'd wait another year and wait on the General Assembly. But I don't think that's fair to our students to do that.
Well, it's not, and from what, and I don't mind saying Mr. Horner's who I've talked to mostly, but
Yeah.
from what he indicated, they really wanted to see it started up, to make sure it was a viable program before they started putting money in, and of course, that would defeat that process.
Yeah, startup funds, that's what we need the funds for.
That's right, I got it. And
Redundant.
I don't mean to keep asking questions on this, but our board, I think all members are extremely interested in this program. Is it too preliminary to ask the 80 signups that you have? Do they seem to fit the model? Has anybody looked at those students to know if that's really what we were trying to target?
As far as in which capacity?
I guess I'm speaking of my own thoughts, but I'm thinking these would be students that would go to high school, maybe stay in high school, that may not stay in high school otherwise, and have some kind of technical ability where they would be able to pick up a trade, leave, go into workforce, and make a livable wage, as we hear many times now. But does and you can tell me it's just too early to know that, and I would certainly know
Well,
that.
the
But
counselors and the parents
Mhm.
were heavily involved in identifying the design of the program
Okay.
and the profile of a potentially successful
Right.
student. So that work has been put in.
Okay.
We really won't know until we get on the other side of year
Okay.
one, and they've had a
Understood.
chance to engage in the curriculum.
But I think too, if I may, all of these students, aren't they interviewed by the principal and
Yeah,
there's
so
a vetting process?
there is an application process, and this is voluntarily, so they can apply for the school. And so, in that case, the principal does bring them in and has a one-on-one conference, talks about what they're interested in, and that way, and from that point, they create their pathway of what they would like to do.
I guess I'm just being selfish in this questioning, and hope that at the end of the road, we find some more people to go in the construction industry. The next item on the agenda, Dr. Jeffers, we just put a state budget recap, and what we're speaking of on there, probably should expand a little bit more. We're just wondering from the school system side of what your thoughts are on the state adopted budget, where you gained, where you lost, how good is it, how bad is it, and then I'd just like to hear what the school side has to say about that. I can read all I want to, and quite frankly, you read two different articles, sometimes you don't even know they're talking about the same thing about whether it was good or whether it was bad or whether it was great or whether it wasn't, but how does it affect Nash-Rocky Mount schools?
Well, we'll respectfully decline to offer editorial about how good or bad it is.
That's fair.
But our CFO, Ms. Susan Blackwell, will give you the assessment that you're asking for.
Honestly, Mr. Davis, this DPI has not had the opportunity, the Department of Public Instruction has not had the opportunity to allocate that out by schools yet. So we can't compare the actual allocation or even the planning allocation to what we actually received this year, not at this point. We can provide that as soon as the Department of Public Instruction gives us those planning allocations. And I can provide that to Mr. Jeffries, Dr. Jeffries.
So the short and long of, we do not know yet.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
I have one.
Sure.
The budget y'all presented us, revenue from the state, it looked like, this was a couple months ago, I realize, had, an increase of about $4.5 million from 89.2 to 93.7. Obviously, we know 200 of that 93.7's gone away. What, do you have any idea? I know you said they haven't.
It was mainly the increases, the projected increases that we put in the budget of the salaries and the benefits. And remember, we get allocations in both position allotments and dollar allotments. So even though the revenue might increase, the positions may not increase.
So that number that y'all had there, is that given to you by the state?
That is clearly a projection on my half when we do the budget, just like when you do the budget.
I got you.
You don't have actual numbers.
Thank you.
The next item, new supplement number for Nash County. As we recall, Nash County did increase the local expenditure to the school system based on a number that we felt like was an adequate number to give, to keep the classroom teacher supplement at the 10% based on a 3% increase on the state's salary allotment. It appears like, and I'll read, it says teachers will receive a 6.5% salary increase amounting to an average 2018, 2019 teacher salary of $53,700. That number is irrelevant, but it's an average, percent increase is what I understand, and are any of us gonna be smart enough to know what that number is gonna equate to for what we need to increase our budget to you by?
If I may.
Sure.
I think the commissioners have committed to whatever their supplement number is, increasing that comparatively. 6.5% obviously is an average. If you have, I guess what we're gonna need, once y'all can calculate what the total classroom teacher cost to the district is, if you can forward that to us, we'll bring it to y'all, and,
So you're saying forget what we put in there, just get the total?
well,
And then
we've
we'll
already
have-
got the 180 in there.
Sure, right.
But, if it ends up being, you know, a supplement of 6 million or 6.5 million, they really can't do that, can you, until you get all your hiring tentatively in
That is
place?
correct. The only thing we could do at this point is do an average, like you say, and put a 6.5%, and we know that that's not gonna happen, because each year, I've watched it, they hit certain steps of the
Right,
teacher salary schedule every year.
right.
And then some portions don't get as much raise as other portions. So there is a comparison out there right now of a planning teacher salary schedule. And we can project based on who is hired right now. But that doesn't necessarily, it'll be accurate at the beginning of next year. We could always, give you that figure at the beginning of next year after we hire, and like you said, you could do an amendment then.
That's what we would suggest. At that time, you do your calculation, and then we would bring it to the
You would
commissioners.
supplement or either decrease, yes.
Well, it shouldn't be a decrease, I wouldn't think.
Never is.
Well, I think that's a matter that the commissioners have committed several times publicly. So once you can give us that number, I'll take it to them at the next meeting.
I just wanted to continue to let you know we've got to ante up whatever that number becomes, based on what we had agreed to. And the 6.5%, if that's an average, that's easy to calculate, but of course it needs to be a real number. Anything else on that, Mr. Lanham or Dr. Jeffers?
No, not from our end.
Okay. Item 6 was an update on the Northern Nash Elementary School. First item I listed was the grant, that is due in August, I think. Just to see if there's anything else we need to be doing there, or we're ready, we have got a commitment from our local officials that when we submit that grant, they gonna get on it, see if they can help us this time with it. So,
We've been checking, I've been checking weekly in terms of when the application process, it has not opened as of yet. Obviously checked before this meeting, so I'm just waiting. We are ready with the current application we currently have. Based on Senate Bill 99, it seems as if Tier 2 counties, the maximum for schools is only 10 million, where I believe we thought it was going to be 15 million, that the actual application or grant was going to provide us, but it seems as if that has changed to 10 million for Tier 2 counties. But at this point, I'm just waiting for the application period to open so we can submit our application.
is anything changed where we did determine we were eligible last time when it was only Tier 1 counties because we had Tier 1 county students? So,
I haven't seen anything change in that regard.
Okay, so should still be eligible for the full amount.
We did get I mean, they told us we would be eligible for Tier 1.
They did. Through our legislators, yes.
Good.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have submitted the grant. Or
Good.
wouldn't have been in the need to.
Was that, ma'am,
Sure, no, you sure?
on the matter of the city school, whatever it's, comprehensive, no,
City High
cooperative,
School.
yeah, City High School. I noticed on page 2 that we were classified as a tier 2. Was there any discussion that since we serve tier 1 kids, that we might get that extra 75 or whatever it was? Was there any request?
Not that I recall, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, so originally, that was a question we asked as well, because we do serve Edgecombe County schools, or students.
Right.
We were told at the beginning of this process, in the application process, that we would fall under tier 2 right now. And we said, well, could you take it into consideration, because we are serving the Edgecombe County students, that we could be listed as tier 1, which would then, the funding would move up to $310,000.
Oh, okay, great.
But we didn't hear a response
So we did not
to
get
that
a response.
consideration.
And now we got a year to hear it, so, thank you.
Possibly.
Well, just for y'all's information, I will say that if it's 10,000, 10 million, I'm sorry, $10 million maximum for tier 2, with about 1.3 in lottery money a year, that would be 6.5 million we'd have to give up in order to get that 10 million. I mean, but it's 3.5 million more than we would have had, but we will not have that lottery money that has been committed to the high school. Debt service to the senior high school, so be nice if we could get reclassified and be a tier 1 and get 15 million. Now, the 10 million, is that just for tier 2, or was it,
It is just for tier 2.
but tier 1s would
It's
still be,
15 million,
would
yes.
still be eligible? Okay.
Was that total amount this time moved up to 114 million? Do I remember that right?
I believe the total amount in the Senate bill was 117 million.
117, okay.
I think that's the uniqueness of our situation when we have two counties in one, that when they come up, we're unique, we're a unique situation, and that they don't ever even think about the fact that we might be tier 2 in one county and tier 1 in another county, and we're serving both kids. It doesn't happen in anything that we do, ever.
And we are borderline tier 1, tier 2. 3 years ago, we were tier 1 for 2 years, and
We were 3 counties away from still tier 1 this past time.
right, well, now we're 42nd, 43rd,
Right.
and the first 40 are tier 1.
Right. So we'll, that's something I can't decide, whether you're better off to be or better off not to be. I
Yeah.
just don't know on that one. We were expecting prior to this date, Dr. Jeffries to be notified of these community meetings on this, elementary school. I've checked, we still haven't heard anything staff-wise or board-wise. Where do those meetings stand? Have we got
Right
them
now,
scheduled yet?
you haven't missed a thing. We completed May 15th and May 16th, our invitation-only stakeholder meetings. The board identified 25 community stakeholders in each of the 3 impacted areas that would be an informative group to begin the conversations for planning toward the town halls. We had responses of the 25 invitees, 20 scheduled to attend the meetings on May 15th and 16th. We had about 12 that actually showed up. The groups were evenly distributed over the 2 days. They were very informative. No board members were present, and that's why there wasn't an extension to this group, but because we wanted to get their true sense and the information that they had. We were pleasantly surprised. We opened up with a presentation from Mr. Davis about the process and all of the deliberations that it would entail. We were pleasantly surprised how knowledgeable the group was. Not surprisingly, there was some emotion that was that did rise to the surface, and a lot of it was about the institutional memory associated with these schools. There were references to the former Edison project, whereby in the first week, a representative from Edison decided to discard a school archive and that sent the message of disrespect to the community. So we heard that in both sessions, that while there's a thorough understanding that there is a prescient need as it relates to replacing these antiquated facilities, that there still needs to be some consideration and deliberation by my board to honor the memory and the heritage of those. Some of the examples was a wall commemorating the heritage of the schools. There were some great ideas. So where we are now, and we had volunteers who offered to host the town halls. Our first town hall will be in the town of Red Oak. We're looking to coordinate with a local church that offered to host. So once we get that, the venues determined, we'll extend those opportunities to your board, and also any staff that you would like to participate will be able to coordinate with Mr. Davis.
I guess I misunderstood what you were doing. Now, what kind of meetings have you already had? What did you call them?
These are invitation-only stakeholder meetings. The design was that we can go to a town hall, and that same emotion can bubble up where we're hearing about Edison, and then all of a sudden this initiative gets branded with that same misinformation, or we till the soil with some informed community leaders who we unpack, we listen, we let them exhaust the questions that they had. We were able to identify some misinformation that we'd already determined on the site, that we'd already made some decisions, and that wasn't the case. My board has tasked me with engaging the community as a part of the decision-making process. So now, fast forward to us scheduling the town halls, we have a collective group that we've unpacked the rationale for. We've helped to dispel the myths, and our expectation and their commitment is to help with their community in understanding that some of those myths aren't going to apply in this process.
You said you had two. Is there another one of those scheduled?
No, we're done with the invitation only. Now they'll all be public town halls, open to anyone who wishes to attend.
But having two, you had members, where did the people come from? Who selected?
They were
them?
solicited from our board,
Okay.
folks who they thought would be representative and strong messengers of the process in preparation for the town hall meetings.
And by only having two, I guess they were distributed among the three schools.
There was representation, there was equal, the list was 25 folks that we invited. 20 responded with availability. We scheduled the meetings around their schedules, and then we came out to two separate meetings to give time for exhaustive questions, and the process has started well.
Was that a total of 12 for two meetings, or 12?
Total of 12 between the two meetings that responded from 20 who scheduled.
Mhm. That's, well, I'll probably reserve that comment, but that's a little disappointing to me that only that many would show up for such an important decision.
Well, it's about 50% of those that were identified, and again, 20 responded saying they would come, 12 did. This wasn't a mandatory event.
Sure.
These are community stakeholders who were willing to volunteer their time. So we appreciate one showing up, and it helped inform our process.
Well, when you look at 50%,
You had
that's
close
not
to
unusual.
50%, you had close to 50%. In most surveys, that's considered good. And busy schedules like now, probably some of them forgot it. You got so many things that they're trying to be involved in.
What seemed to be, you mentioned archives, any other points that you heard numerous times of a concern that you can remember?
Yes,
offhand?
Mr. Miller, you want to share?
Obviously, the history of the schools, traffic was definitely a concern for us to consider, just making sure traffic was not an issue. The status of the buildings, once consolidation was done, what's the plan for the sites after that? And really just applauding us for being transparent with the community. Those were really the top concerns that we heard.
Well, that they are very valid concerns, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could see the archives being a big concern. And I think you said, you talked about a wall.
That was the suggestion from one of the members, just making sure we have something dedicated to the past, not to forget any of the past.
A wall can be erased, and I've seen it happen in schools and in private places. When you get a new group, new leaders to come in, and they say, well, we don't need all that. Put it in a box. And I think that if you're gonna have history for people to remember, it ought to be somewhere where it can be referenced. Right.
Ms. Edge?
Yes, I think what we were trying to do is to make sure that we didn't do the same thing that happened with Pope, because we went about the closing of Pope without that community input. I think we would have been more successful, but you learn from your past mistakes. So that's why it was important that we had some community input here for these potential closings.
I think when we get out of school, the majority of what we learn is from our mistakes. quite
Yes, we do.
frankly. Very well taken. Do you have an idea, Dr. Jeffries, of these town hall meetings? Would they be during the summer, or when would they be?
Yes, sir. We're gonna look to convene them during the summer. The board, again, has tasked us to make sure that the process is authentic. So we are, and at our board retreat, my board, I tapped into making sure that we expand our marketing. We had a master board presenter that helped the board unpack that roughly 20% of our community have students in our schools, so they're vested. Our communication devices work for that 20%. The broader part of the community, the 80%, we haven't been tapping into them effectively. So working with Dr. Hollingsworth, we're gonna make a concerted effort to broaden our marketing so that we have the maximum participation at the town halls. But our goal is to convene those during the summer and maximize on turnout.
Of course, if you're willing, we have a very active website as well. We'll be glad to share any information that we can share from you. I know we have apparently a lot of followers on our website just on the comments that I get from what goes on in our meetings out in the public. So anything that we can help you with, that let the citizens know, feel free to give it to us. And Mr. Edwards would be glad to. Mr. Sam, am I okay what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You
We
start
welcome,
smiling.
we welcome the support. Thank you.
Okay. We'll certainly be willing to help try to reach the community for that.
If I could, just real quick, Dr. Jeffries, I was thinking as he said that, the Nash County Sheriff's page on Facebook has everything, and people look at that page. That would be another great way to reach out, is to share that with Chief Medina.
That's that 80% that we don't always touch, that are
Everything's on
not
that page.
It would be.
using the website, et cetera.
Yeah, he has a webpage that is very actively looked at.
And also Jonathan's got one generally for the county
That's right.
that gets a lot of hits. Probably not as many as the sheriff's, but.
People like interesting news better than they do good news sometimes, I guess. Any other comments about those meetings? I think we're good on that. I just put down here, and I'm probably too early, an estimated time to zero in on a site selection. You got to get through all of this. I realize we got to do that. I'm just asking, what else can the Board of Commissioners do to help you with this process?
I'm sure as opportunities present, we will definitely reach out to you and communicate those opportunities. We appreciate your willingness.
I still believe, and we've said this before, and I repeat myself more than I should according to that lady that lives with me, but especially my conversations with her, she said, but I still think the best approach to this thing is to have the two boards be in harmony, number one, but to show the public that we in harmony on this. We haven't always been in harmony on capital improvements in the past, and it made it more difficult. It moving forward, particularly in building new schools, if we can go at it in a joint nature, I just think, the citizens are gonna buy into whatever we're already on the same bus with a lot easier than they would if they detect anything that's not in harmony with us. Is that a point that do I make myself clear of how I feel about that?
Madam Chair? Yeah, he's asking if, I think the reason for us constructing this body was to build toward that harmony in public perception.
Yeah.
So the authorization I get from my board is that they want us to extend every opportunity to collaborate.
Sure. And I just feel like the sooner the public realizes that we're, together on this particular piece, as well as early childhood, that they can see that we're working together, it's gotta help both of us, quite frankly, and make the process easier. Ms. Dole?
I know that calendars are tough, especially in the summertime. All of us have places to go and do things, but if all possible, it would really be very good if, when we have these town hall meetings, that not only some, our board members be there, but our county commissioners be there as well. Not that we have to sit there and hold hands together, I'm not saying that.
We don't, but that's the kind of thing I'm
But be
speaking of.
present, to
Yeah.
know that you're listening to the same thing, so we don't have to get in the meeting and say, well, this is what they said. Everybody's gonna hear it with the same ears, and we'll be able to discuss it a lot easier and move forward with some of the kinks, because there are gonna be some challenges. There's sidebars out there already that
I realize
we're
that.
not discussing
I'm
as a
beginning to hear
board.
some of them.
We're waiting and listening and then reacting.
But I
Well,
think having these monthly meetings have been very beneficial for both boards, because it gives us the opportunity to express ideas, to share our concerns, and to say to the community that we are transparent and that we are doing everything that we can to show that we are working cooperatively. And I think that from the very first meeting up until this meeting, we have seen how the working together has definitely improved for all.
Well, we sure hope so. And I'll assure you, Mr. Deal, when y'all let us know when that meeting is, some of us will be there. It would surprise me if we all are not there, but of course, schedule sometimes keep you from being there, but, it's a very important item to our board to, one of our goals for this year was to improve relationships with the school board. So this is a capital improvement, a very large project coming up. That's a great way to do that.
Because even you're coming to that community meeting down at the South Rocky Mountain Community Center, that said a lot to that community, that you would take time out of your schedule to be a part of their community meeting. And he stood and he told the history of his going to Williford School.
Alumnus of that school.
Yeah, 8 years worth. Sure did.
8 or 9?
8,
Oh,
I promise you. It was 1 through 8. Didn't have a gate, and I didn't fail any grade. I got, every year I got closer and closer, but when other things get your attention in middle school, as we all know.
Was Lloyd Thrower your principal?
No, it was earlier than that.
Okay.
It was actually, Carpenter was the principal and his wife was the 8th grade teacher. And he taught math in his wife's 8th grade, class, which, Dr. Jeffers is the reason I'm much more proficient in math than I am English, because of that one gentleman, Mr. Carpenter. Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, I had an experience once where we were gonna do a large park, and before we went out and got the site, we kind of drug our feet, and then we found the perfect site, but it had sold a month before. And so I'm just wondering if we don't need to go ahead, maybe Mr. Davis and Mr. Tolson, or start surveying the possible sites, so that we don't let something get away from us that might be on the market right now or next month, but by the time we're ready to purchase it, on a normal schedule, it's no longer on the market. I don't know if there is anything out within sewer distance, but
Anytime you're dealing with land, the sooner you can identify it and get it in the
Exactly.
contract to put it off you are, but of course, I realize we are not to that point quite yet. I will say, and I hope it's just my imagination, but I go to Littleton very frequently, and I never recall seeing a for sale sign on a large tract of land. And since we've started talking about this, there are 3 40-acre tracts of land or larger on that Highway 43 that has a for sale sign on it. I think it's coincidental, but I just wonder sometimes if indeed it is. If you happen to ride up through there, just notice the large tracts that have a for sale sign on it.
Is that something you'd be amenable to, Mr. Davis? That the only caution is that we need to embed that in our presentation so that the last thing we want is the public to see someone at one of the sites and say they've already picked the site.
I see.
So we'll
I
just
agree
make sure that
with
we're
you 100%.
transparent in communicating that.
Yeah, what I would do initially is look at those 3 sites, see what they're asking for it, and see if any of them would be suitable, because they could sell, and one of them might be the most suitable that sells.
I think you're actually right, because when you look at salesmanship and selling, you have to be able to overcome objections. And even though we haven't heard from the public, we all know that there needs to be some options out there because of some things that we've already heard. All of us have heard things, you know, and to be able to be ready to build some options into what we do. So when we listen and we hear everything, it might be that we put it there in the center and not over here, but we put it here because a lot of kids are over here and there, and if they're sore, then why not? You know, if it can be done. So yeah, I think you're ahead of the game as long as we're not preconceived. People get, they're getting land out there in this area, or they're getting land in that. You know, we can't afford that.
Is that the highway that all those trucks go down? And it's about, I know Donovan has expressed a concern about that road going, I don't know if that's the same one going to Dorchester.
Yeah, her concern was them coming back towards Red Oak. It's not a really good, it's not like, her analogy was from Sharpsburg to Bailey. It was different. That road is, 97 is a better road than this particular road. That was her analogy, yeah.
43 road is in good shape up to a mile outside of Red Oak. Then it does indeed narrow.
It does.
And has more challenges. I don't think it has a concentration of trucks on it. You may have been thinking about possibly Halifax Road because of rock quarries on Halifax. They've ever dumped trucks on that road. The only thing that goes up 43, you do have a lot of solid waste trucks going to the landfill, which is not far off from 43. But I don't think there's anything that would be any real concern with.
I just wasn't sure
along
which
there.
highway I was on.
Sure. I believe that may well be Halifax where the majority of the trucks are, which is real close to that. Anything else on the Northern Nash Elementary School, Ms. Outlaw? Any thoughts, Bellfield? Okay. Anything, Dr. Jeffries, y'all like to add to it?
Not at this time.
Okay. We're waiting on the list of what we can do.
Yes, sir.
I'll just open it up for anything else that anyone here wishes to speak about, and then, of course, establish a next date which seems to work for all of us better than leaving here without a date. But what else, anybody else got on the mind?
We will host the next meeting, and it seems like it's on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Seems to fit into everyone's schedule with an hourly meeting. The next would be July the 11th, if we're going to continue and not take a break there during July because of vacations, et cetera.
I think it's fine with us. I know y'all, or some of you are off in July, I don't know, but I'm tickled to death to keep them on schedule, but.
No, we're still working. We just,
Okay.
have to look at our schedules if we're in town, and as many of us will come as need be, otherwise we'll send a substitute.
That's a good week for us. We've combined our 2 July meetings to the 9th.
Right.
So, that would be a good week to have it, whatever day y'all decide.
I'm com-
Cindy, Wayne,
I'm committed to present at a national conference, but Mr. Miller will have my proxy. It doesn't need to slow up the process.
Evan? So I think we're fine for July the 11th, 3 o'clock, and we will host.
Let's build it.
Oh, I'm fine
Okay.
at 3
That's
o'clock.
fine. That's
That's
great.
Wednesday, July the 11th, 3 o'clock, Nash-Rocky Mount Board.
Are you gonna be gone the whole week?
I am.
Okay.
All right, nothing else, we stand adjourned. We thank you very much.
Thank you.